think this must be all of us. Maybe good morning. What time is it? We'll make a start, and if anybody comes in a little later, then that's okay. We'll wait for Rebecca to come in. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to today's meeting, which we're going to be talking about sleep. I'm Louisa. I think most of you already know me from the last time, but I'm the Wellington Health and Wellness Facilitator. And I will be talking to you about sleep today, which I'm really excited about. So sleep. We all need sleep. Sleep is basically an essential process in the body that affects both our physical and mental functions, as well as our ability to fight disease, decrease chronic conditions, and support our metabolism. You can say that sleep is a multidisciplinary event in our body because it really does affect every aspect of our health. It can look differently in people. It normally happens in 4 stages. As we know, one of the stages is obviously the awake stage, the light, the deep, and the REM sleep. And each stage plays an essential role in maintaining our physical and mental health. A full cycle of sleep, as you can see, I've got a little chart here, can take roughly around 90 to 110 minutes a night. And your body actually cycles through different sleep stages all through the night. So it can move from light sleep to deep sleep, and then back to light sleep, and then into REM sleep. So the cycles can vary naturally. So how important is sleep for our mental health? So this is a really, really big one because sleep and mental health go hand in hand. Sleep is really essential for maintaining our baseline mental health. And lack of sleep can actually dramatically affect our mood. Chronic exposure of low quality sleep is associated with depression and anxiety, as well as other mental health conditions. And there is a bi-directional association. So that means that sometimes when we experience anxiety and depression, this can affect sleep, which in turn can impact the ability to cope with anxiety and depression. So it's almost like a cycle that can happen. We know that sleep disorders are really common amongst people with ME/CFS, especially at the beginning stages of the condition. Many people can experience hypersomnia, which means that it's an excessive amount of sleepiness and drowsiness. This can then progress, obviously, to insomnia, where people actually have problems falling asleep and staying asleep. Insomnia is very common in people who suffer from chronic conditions. And it's also associated with stress and anxiety. So often we have to be really mindful of not getting into this cycle of worrying about sleep and how much sleep we're getting, because the anxiety can actually make the problem worse. I mean, we've all laid in bed thinking, why can't we sleep? And, you know, it actually makes us feel really anxious. And yeah, that in itself can feed into the cycle, which can make us take longer to go to sleep. Some other sleep disorders which are common that include sleep apnea. These type of disorders actually require medical diagnosis, and it's really important that if we suspect that we have any kind of sleep disorder, such as sleep apnea, for example, that we get to the bottom of it, because anything that we can do that is going to help our sleep, obviously, you know, is going to be welcome. So there are several sleep clinics around the country. You can normally contact your GP, and they are able to either offer some advice or refer you to one of the clinics. So what can we do to sleep better? I love an infographic, and I thought this one was great. So here are several ideas of what you can do to support your sleep physically. And we will go into some detail for some of them. Can you see me okay? I'm just... very strange. No. Hi. Can you all see me? Yeah? Oh, good. Sorry, I just had a thing pop up. Annabelle, can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, no, I just had a thing pop up that said that I was signed out, so I just got a little bit confused. I'm still here. Okay. So here are several ideas of what we can do to support our sleep. And we will go into some more detail into some of them, including, what it means to establish a good nighttime wake-up routine. But as you can see, some of the suggestions include walking, which of course for some of our ME/CFS people, we need to make sure that if we are walking, we're not exhausting our energy envelope. So please be mindful of that. And I also think with the walking, partly the idea of being outdoors and getting fresh air, that can really support our sleep. So, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be walking, for miles or, going on big hill walks, just, being mindful of just perhaps being outside and even do some gentle stretching outside might do the trick too. Remembering as well what works for some of us may not work for others. And sometimes all of these ideas are kind of like a trial and error. Some might work and some might not. When looking at environmental factors for improving sleep, having things like a dark room and a comfortable mattress are really helpful. Suitable temperature, especially in the summer, because we can get really, really hot, and that can, we've all been there in the summer where it's really muggy and, it can really affect your sleep. Somewhere quiet and undisturbed. Make your bedroom a calm space, and obviously avoid working in your bedroom. A really good tips for sleep hygiene. The working in the bedroom is particularly important because now that many of us are working from home, the spaces become one. So I've been guilty myself of actually working from my bedroom, and that can sometimes confuse your body into thinking, this is in a place where I come and sleep. Let's talk about the sleep routines. So having a solid bedtime routine can really help sleep hygiene and getting to sleep. Having a bedtime and wake up routine helps set up a circadian rhythm, allowing for better sleep overall. Keeping a routine can prompt us to fall asleep at the same time and waking up at the same time. And having a consistent wake up time in particular can be really important because your circadian rhythm or your body clock is actually guided by the time you wake up rather than by the time you go to bed. So this is interesting. This is something, for example, that we see in teenagers that they wake up a lot later. So one of the ways that we can, help kind of get our circadian rhythms to get amongst the time that we need to wake up is to actually just get out of bed and go outside and get some light. Reducing the screen time is particularly important as well, as research suggests that blue light, such as the one on our phones, suppresses the production of melatonin. And it takes your body into thinking that it's daytime, and it gives you daytime alertness. Makes it really difficult for people to turn off their brain. How often, we can sit there and we feel like our brain just doesn't switch off. And this makes it really hard for us to fall asleep. And then, of course, wake up the next day. Using screens for a prolonged period of time during the day has also been found to have negative impacts on sleep as well. So you may not be using the screens, in the evening or when you go to bed, but if you are spending a lot of time in front of computers or in front of iPads, that can actually affect your sleep routine as well. And it can make your sleep shorter, so you sleep for a shorter time. This can lead us to our next step, which is winding down before bed. This can include things like reading a book or doing some gentle stretching or meditation, drinking a cup of sleepy tea. I do this. This is one of my bedtime routines. There's a tea in the supermarket that is called sleep tea. And I don't know what it is about it. Perhaps it's a placebo effect, but it really helps me sleep. It just kind of, it's like a sign that I'm going to bed. I take my tea, I read something, and then I go to sleep. Avoiding naps after 3 p.m. is also recommended. This is partly because prior to mid-afternoon, any naps prior to that can result in a combination of light sleep and REM sleep, whilst napping after 2 p.m. can result in a slow wave type of sleep. So this can make waking up a lot harder, and it makes you feel really groggy if you sleep past a certain time. Saying that, a short nap in the afternoon can boost things like memory, it can lift your mood, and it can ease the stress that you might be feeling and make you feel a bit more alert. You just might want to play around with the length of time that you nap. For some people, around 10 to 20 minutes is enough. I read somewhere actually when I was doing research last year that a 15-minute nap is the equivalent of an hour of sleep at night. I don't know how true that is, but I remember reading it in one of the journals that I was reading. But yeah, so just being mindful that, sometimes the short and sweet naps can be really, really helpful. And sometimes if you sleep a little more and past a certain time, it might not be too helpful. This obviously depends on many factors as well, such as your age, or if you're on any type of medication, or what stage in the management of the condition you might be experiencing. Like I said, at the beginning stages, when people are experiencing ME/CFS, they might need to sleep a little more, and that's okay. Every person is different. And like I said, it's a trial and error. Another thing that would be useful as well to try and get your circadian rhythms into place. It's aiming for 15 minutes of daylight without sunglasses outside. It's recommended to do this in the morning, even if you just hop out, outside your door and just, sit and try and get a little bit of sunlight. This is helpful not just because it boosts your mood and obviously helps your circadian rhythms, but it also helps with vitamin D, boosting your vitamin D production. And it allows your body to know that daytime is daytime and that nighttime is nighttime. Doing things like restorative movement also helps sleep. Obviously, being mindful of our energy, gentle stretching, yoga can be really helpful. Pacing is really important as well, mainly because it avoids any symptom exacerbation that can interfere with your sleep. So if you're pacing well, you will sleep better. Avoiding bright lights in the evening is also a really good tip. After a certain hour of the night, you might want to turn off some of the lights in your house or in your bedroom and just have kind of more dim lights that are signaling your body that it's time to go to sleep, that it's nighttime. And also avoiding, like I said before, spending time in your bedroom doing different things like watching TV or working, because this can interfere with our sleep routine. We want our bedroom to be a sanctuary. We want our bedroom to be the place where sleep happens. And like I said, I'm completely guilty of it. I have found myself working in my bedroom because I work from home the majority of the time. And I keep having to remind myself, no, that's not what we do. So just being mindful of that is really helpful. Now, how does what we eat impact how we sleep? So it is well known that certain substances like caffeine and alcohol can affect sleep. However, there is evidence that suggests that other foods can have beneficial effects on sleep. For example, recently we have found that tart cherries are really helpful. There's actually a drink as well that you can buy that has tart cherry, and it's meant to promote sleep. Kiwi, which I had no idea, but I'm going to start consuming. Fatty fish like salmon really helps get to sleep as well. But what research has also found is that healthy dietary patterns, not just specific foods, are associated with longer sleep duration and shorter time falling asleep. Eating large meals before bed can be a problem at bedtime because digestion normally slows down when we sleep. So being mindful, obviously, not to eat very late and not a huge amount can really help, when you're trying to fall asleep. Obviously, avoiding things like caffeine. Some people can drink coffee all through the day and have absolutely no problems. I have to, my last coffee is normally around midday, because I know that anything, as much as I love it and I really enjoy, drinking, I think for me it's more the having something hot to hold on to. So I've actually swapped my coffee for a herbal tea after about a day. But yes, avoiding things like caffeine. Alcohol can be a sleep disruptor as well, because even though it does make you fall asleep, and it does for a lot of people, the sleep can be like really, really deep sleep, and you don't actually reach the REM sleep, which is the restorative stage of sleep. So some people fall asleep because they've had some wines, but they definitely don't feel like they've rested. So being mindful of your alcohol intake is a really big one. Eating a little bit of protein before going to bed can help stabilize your blood sugars as well, and this can help you sleep longer. And of course, another one that I am very guilty of is drinking too much water before bed and then having to get up in the middle of the night multiple times to go to the toilet. That can also be really disruptive of your sleep. So if we look at some self-help strategies, things like meditation and slowing down your mind and trying to relax before bed is really, really great. I mean, we're all guilty again of having really active minds. And even though sometimes our bodies feel really, really tired, if we don't try and quiet the mind, we might really struggle sleeping. Reducing the pressure on yourself, like I spoke earlier about falling asleep, forcing yourself to sleep. That's a really huge one. Again, we're all guilty of just lying in bed and being really worried as to why we haven't fallen asleep. And that in itself can cause more insomnia. Doing things like following your breath or counting can help fall asleep. There is that saying, counting sheep. I've tried, but I lose count very easily. Except that you will sleep when you're tired and resting in between. So resting is great, even if it doesn't lead to sleep. If you're resting and you're resting your body and you're resting your mind, it is still great. If you're finding it hard to go to sleep, just cut yourself up, give yourself a break, because sometimes just resting is enough. Using things like apps or sleep CDs are really good. Yoga, nidra in particular, sleep radio. I saw somewhere recently that it's not just white noise, there's pink noise as well. I'm not sure what the difference between them are, but there's two different types of noises you can use for sleep. When pacing, just making sure that you are winding down to avoid the tired and wired kind of feeling that sometimes you get. And obviously, if you're experiencing pain, just being able to maintain some kind of pain management strategies that can help with sleep is also recommended, because sometimes, obviously, if we have pain and it's the pain that's keeping us awake, obviously dealing with the pain is really important to be able to sleep better. Doing things like journaling or writing before you go to bed, to just try and wind down, and that can really help a busy mind and promote sleep. So other self-help strategies include things like, medications. So we've got some of the sedating bicyclics that can actually, increase sleep. So your amitriptylines can help promote sleep. Other strategies include supplements like melatonin or magnesium. Magnesium can support muscle and nerve functioning as well as energy production. I take magnesium before sleep as well. Things like melatonin as well. Melatonin is a hormone that is produced in your brain. It's a response to darkness. It can help you time your circadian rhythms. So sometimes, it might just be that you might want to take melatonin for a few days, and it kind of gets you back into some kind of rhythm of sleep. in many places in the world, you don't actually need prescriptions for melatonin, but in New Zealand you do. But it's fairly easy, obviously, to get from the doctor, as long as they agree with you taking it. And then my final thoughts on sleep is obviously be curious and interested in what works for you and what doesn't. What will work for someone might work for you or might not. This is often a trial and error situation. And remember that your body needs to feel calm and relaxed in order to fall asleep. If you're stressed or worried, that's going to add, like we talked about, the cycle of anxiety around going to sleep. And we can often get stuck in this cycle. And just remembering that it is okay not to sleep, and that rest will eventually lead to sleep. So that's us today. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to send them across or just unmute yourself and ask.